Hello everybody, welcome to Crafty Soup. My name is Misty. It is SCT Sampler Kit unboxing time. So we will rip open the package, take a peek at what we've got inside this time around, and then after that we will go ahead and make a bit of a project. So let's dive in. If you are new to these sampler kits, I will tell you a little bit about it, but more details will be down in the description box. They come in these little mailers every month, and when you pull it out, you have a bag of goodies with this card that has the theme for the month, and that theme is just a note. Not only does that theme card kind of give you a hint about what's inside, you also get a matching die that matches that text and font just exactly as you see it. So I'm looking for that first thing, and here it is. We've got the shadow layer. It took me a moment to figure out how it all lined up, and then the word layer. We get a reusable item every month, and this time around it was another die from scrapbook.com. So we've got two dies going on this time around. The back side of the card always lists out the different manufacturers involved. Usually we get two sets of supplies from two different manufacturers, and as I start to poke around at these things, I thought I was going to be able to separate them out just visually, but I will need to go online and take a peek. So I've come back from doing that. This card is a little bit of an extra, and that is from Tailored Expressions. And I can't quite remember what the line is called, something about pre-made or pre-done, something like that. And it's kind of an ink, alcohol ink kind of design there. And then this side of the collection is from Simple Stories. And we have, I'll put up on the screen what this collection is called, and there will be links down below too if you're interested in either getting signed up for these kits or buying these individual products. All those links will be down below. I think this is the flea market collection, actually, now that I'm looking at that particular print with the plates on it. I almost bought several of the new Simple Stories collections. I was at my local-ish scrapbook store not too long ago, and I ended up buying something different from this collection, and I'm glad I did because now I get to play with it, with some of it without having to buy the whole thing. So that's one of the things I like about these sampler kits. Sometimes just a taste of the collection is all I really need, and sometimes it encourages me to go out and buy the whole thing. So this time around, we'll see how that goes. I do like this collection a lot. We'll see if this little taste is enough for what I've got going on. All right, so that was Simple Stories. And then the other side of this collection is from LDRS Creative, I think it is called. And they do stamps and card making supplies as well as some scrapbooking supplies. And so this collection is got a watercolory kind of feel to it. I can't remember the name of this one. I'm pretty sure I own bits and pieces of this collection, and yet I can't entirely remember. So as you can see, these pattern papers are cut down from larger 12 by 12 pattern papers, and that's definitely part of what makes this a sampler kit as opposed to a traditional kit. Oh, look at those little bunnies. Yeah, I know I have some of this paper somewhere. Strawberries. Yep, I definitely have some of this collection somewhere. If I could only remember what it was called. At any rate, that's just kind of what's going through my mind as I look through these things, thinking about how I've used it in the past, what I've done with it before. I really love that piece of ombre polka dotty cardstock. It's fantastic. So that is the set of supplies that we have to work with this time around. And whenever I do an unboxing, I always do a project so you can see interesting ways to put these goodies to use, especially if you're a 12 by 12 scrapbooker and you've got these 6 by 6 papers in front of you. I do a lot of techniques on putting those 6 by 6 papers to use, and that's going to happen again today. I do have photos of my daughter right before she left for a Cirque du Soleil performance. She had gotten a free ticket and went with a friend of the family's because his wife couldn't make it. And he wondered if anybody from our family wanted to go. And we said Fiona would like to go. So I took her picture as she was getting ready to leave for that event. And she was very excited. Anyway, that's the story I am telling today as I kind of sort through all of these pieces. I know I'm going to use this pink ledger paper for my journaling as well as die cutting for my title. And that die actually has a tiny, tiny dot that goes with the J for the word just. So I'm going to not lose that by taping it to my die cut as I'm working here. I did die cut the shadow out of that ombre, and I chose the pink because I was hoping it would be enough contrast against the darker part of the shadow, and that's working pretty well. I did trim down the rest of that ledger paper so that I can use it for journaling. And now it's time to decide what I'm going to do with this layout. So I have an idea for this layout that maybe I've seen somewhere before. I can't specifically remember, but often after I've done a project, I will remember the influences later. So maybe I've seen this somewhere before, but this idea came to me somehow, one way or another. And I'm going to center my journaling and my photos, and I did pull out a ticket from those supplies because this was definitely about having a free ticket. So I'm going to center all of that part in the middle of my layout, and I'm going to surround it with corners of pattern paper. So as you can see, I'm starting to lay out these 6x6 squares of paper around the edge of just a white 12x12 sheet of cardstock that I pulled from my supplies. I am trying to create enough contrast between the patterns so that each pattern holds up on its own and yet still blends in with all the rest of the patterns around. I am trying to spread out floral patterns so they're not too close together. So those are some of the things that I'm thinking of as I get all of this stuff going. Now that I've got an idea of where this project is going, I do start making some final decisions and adhering things down. I start with my permanent adhesive and then I switch to my temporary adhesive because sometimes you have visions in your head about how things will go and they don't always work out that way. Luckily, this time around it did, but that temporary adhesive gave me a little extra bravery to work on this new to me idea. So I am trying to make sure as I get these corners on there that the tip of the corner is pointing towards the center. Now, depending on the pattern and the texture, and like this word joy, I wanted to make sure is going to be the focus of that piece of pattern paper. Sometimes I'll tip them depending on how they're best gonna fit on the paper, especially with the florals. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't cutting off florals in awkward places and that I had some of the stems in there and whatnot. So I had those ideas in mind. I thought I would be able to get this into my paper trimmer to get all these edges trimmed down. No, that's not gonna fit. I don't know why I thought I could do that. So out come the trusty scissors, and I am trying to hold everything kind of flat as I go and push it into the table. And when I flip it over after this first trimming, I am very happy. This came out exactly how I had envisioned it. So it was hard to know how much of that paper was going to be showing up when you've got a whole full 6x6 square and it's covered up with other 6x6 squares, and you're trying to imagine how much is going to be left on that page. I was a little worried that it wasn't going to come out as well as I had envisioned, and it did. It came out beautifully. So I am very happy with this idea. And if I found it from somebody out there in internet land, I am very thankful. But if I came up with it on my own, maybe that's the case. I don't know. But at any rate, this is something I will be doing again. So you can see as I'm going around and filling in the gaps, I am tacking everything down a little bit better with more adhesive. Now, you may think I have a whole bunch of trash sitting here. No, I do not. If you saw last month's video, I cut a whole bunch of, I think it was last month, a whole bunch of circles out of pattern paper. So you can use those leftover scraps for doing things like cutting out circles to create a grid, or cutting out squares to create a grid, or cutting out strips of pattern paper to use it that way. So I will link you up to a couple of videos below that will help you use up these leftover pieces. And I will put that circle video up in the corner too for easy access. Now, I did want just a little bit more definition on these corners as I'm going. So I bring out my trusty journaling pen. This is definitely something I do often, is tracing around the edges. And at first I just traced the inside edge of all of those angles. And then I decided, no, I wanted to trace the whole piece of paper. So I did go back and do all that. And then I am coming back to finish up my title. I'm going to go ahead and pop that up on some foam dots here so that it holds up a little bit better, because that pink word does have a shadow behind it that gives it a little buffer between the pink journaling card, but I wanted to make sure that it had enough of a buffer. And sometimes popping things up on foam dots will help it stand out just a little bit more from the rest of the background. So that is what I'm doing with my title. All right, with that in place, I had set aside just a couple of embellishments, because really the energy of the pattern paper in this style is enough decoration on its own, I think. So I do have a couple of things here, and I am messing around with where I think I want them to go, and I'm not feeling like it needs a whole lot, so I'm going to eliminate a few things as we go. I start writing in my journaling while I'm still thinking, and then I know my journaling is going to run off the end of this ledger paper because the lines are very wide, and I didn't really think about that as much as I started thinking about my journaling. So I'm going to try and fit it in there and use one of the embellishments to help nestle around the remainder of the journaling. And I do my journaling in a way so that that little bit of information could be like a sneak to what the rest of the journaling says as well, if that makes any sense. So that is what I did down there, and I nestled my floral embellishment there. And then this little banner, I'm going to pop up on foam dots again to help it stand out from the rest of the pattern papers, because it could just blend in, but outlining it, and you can see that its shape is slightly different. And it does have some words on it, so I think that helps it stand out just a little bit more. And then a couple of cute bees on there, just because we were taking pictures in front of the flowers. That's the only reason why I put those bees on there. And that finishes off this layout for this time. I really liked this technique a lot, and I hope you do too. I will leave you with a few close-ups. Oh, I am not done. I realized I was going to put those enamel dots on this layout also, and they had gotten shuffled underneath something. So I turned the camera back on and finished up putting those on there. And then that finishes off the layout. So now I will leave you with a couple of close-ups of this project. I will say thank you very much for being here and for watching. I hope you get something useful out of these unboxings, whether it's seeing if this is the right kit for you or enjoying an interesting project. And I should be back on Friday with another mixed media project, and that will probably be my last video for April until we move into May. Until then, have an artful day.